Hello, friends. Thank you for being with me. Subscribe, like, and let's get started.
Anna was sitting cross-legged in an armchair by the window, nervously fiddling with the bracelet on her wrist. The evening light fell softly on her face, emphasizing the thoughtful look in her eyes. In another part of the room, Tom was immersed in the phone screen, idly scrolling through social networks. They had long been accustomed to such silence. Everyone was busy with their own, as if they lived in parallel worlds that only occasionally intersected. She was looking at him, his habit of slightly raising an eyebrow when he reads something funny, on his arms, which seemed so strong and reliable to her when he hugged her in the early years of their marriage. But now it's been almost 10 years of living together, and everything was different now. Not his fault, more like hers. Her heart was drawn to the other side, to something she couldn't explain yet. Tom, she began carefully, pulling him away from the phone. Yes? He looked up, slightly annoyed at being distracted. Have you ever felt that something is missing? What is it? She asked, trying to keep her voice level. Tom put the phone down on the table and looked at her with interest. What is missing? What are you talking about? Anna shrugged, pretending it was a simple question. Well, I don't know. It feels like you're stuck, that everything is too predictable. Tom frowned, thinking, no, everything seems to be fine. Work, home, children. It's a little boring sometimes, but that's probably how it is for everyone. Why are you asking? She turned her gaze to the window, avoiding his gaze. I'm just thinking. This conversation was the beginning. Anna did not dare to say everything at once. She knew that her words could hurt Tom, and she didn't want him to see it as his mistake. But the thought of finding something new in her life haunted her. Over the next few months, Anna skillfully introduced the topic of freedom into their conversations. She did it carefully, as if she was checking the water before jumping. I read an article about a couple who decided to give each other more freedom. You know, it probably helps to keep a relationship going, she said one day over dinner. Tom, engrossed in his phone, answered absently. Really? Well, maybe it helps for someone. Another time, when they were sitting on the couch, she said, you know, I've always wondered what it would be like to feel young and free again. Don't you think about it? Tom looked up from the screen, slightly confused. Young? I don't know. I'm kind of happy with what I have. You're already my most beautiful. Anna smiled but did not continue. She knew she shouldn't push at this stage. Family life went on as usual, but Anna was patient. She took her time, realizing that such conversations take time. Her goal was not to destroy the family, but to convey to Tom that her desires did not threaten their relationship, that this was just a way to find herself. In the third month of such conversations, she decided on a more frank confession. They were sitting in the kitchen when the children were already asleep, and the quiet house plunged into the usual evening routine. Tom, she began, twirling the cup of tea in her hands. What if I said I wanted to try something new? Tom looked wary, but not scared. He was used to her philosophical conversations. Is it new? What are you talking about? She took a deep breath. I would like to feel myself free. I'm not saying it's forever. Just a little bit of freedom to figure out who I am. Now he was looking at her in surprise. Are you serious? Anna, I don't understand what you're getting at. She put her hand on his arm, trying to speak as gently as possible. Tom, that doesn't mean I want to leave or destroy us. It means that I want to feel that I am still wanted and alive. I want to know that I still have time for something more. Tom fell silent, and a mixture of emotions was reflected on his face. Bewilderment, resentment, anxiety. You mean you're bored with me? She squeezed his hand. It's not about you. It's about me. He took his hand away and looked at her again. Wait a minute. I need time to process all this, Anna. She nodded, realizing that she had taken the first step. Her words, her tone, her patience, it was all thought out. She knew that the process had just begun, and how they both handled it would determine their future. Tom slowly got up from the table, took the cup from her hands and put it in the sink. He was in no hurry to speak, as if he was gathering his thoughts. Anna watched him, feeling the tension in the air. She knew that now he would finally give her an answer. He turned to her, leaning on the edge of the table. Anna, I'm trying to understand you. Truth. But you don't give me a chance to figure out exactly what you need. You want freedom. Good. But freedom from what? From me? From the children? From the family? Or from herself? Anna flinched, as if these questions had hit her right in the weak spot. Tom, this is not about you. I don't want to leave my family. It's hard to explain. His voice was soft but firm. Because to me it sounds like I'm not good enough. We're not good enough. Me, the kids, the house we built together. No, Tom, it's not like that. She interrupted, feeling her voice begin to tremble. You are a wonderful husband. I love you. I love our family. But you've never felt that? Stuck? That everything has become routine? That you live by a pattern? Tom chuckled, shaking his head. Of course I felt it. But, Anna, this is life. Everyone has such moments. But this does not mean that you need to break everything and run away from your family in order to feel free. She tried to find the right words. I don't want to break everything and leave my family. I want to try something new. To know that I can still be someone other than my wife and mother. By someone? Tom raised his eyebrows. And who do you want to be, Anna? Her eyes filled with tears, but she restrained herself. I want to feel like I'm still being seen. That I can still be beautiful, desirable, young. Tom froze. His gaze softened, but there was something new in it, not anger but rather pain. He sat down at the table again, folding his hands in front of him. Do you think I can't see you? Do you think I don't notice how beautiful you are? How strong are you? But, he paused, as if trying to find the right words. I can't fight your demons. If you don't believe in yourself, Anna, I can't make you feel it. These words startled her. She had never thought that he understood her inner feelings so subtly. Tom, she started, but he raised his hand to stop her. No, let me finish. His voice was calm, but firm. I don't mind you finding yourself. If you really need it, I'm ready to talk about it. But you have to understand one thing. I'm not going to let this destroy our family. If you're looking for freedom, then we have to decide what it means for both of us. She nodded, feeling relief and fear wash over her at the same time. I understand. I don't want to destroy what we have. Tom sighed and leaned closer. Then tell me honestly, Anna, do you want a free relationship? These words sounded like a blow. She knew this question was inevitable, but she wasn't ready for it. I just want to know what it means to me. Tom tilted his head, studying her face. All right, he finally said. Then let's try to figure it out together. But, Anna, if we go down this path, I want to make sure that you don't forget about what we have. About our family. About what we have created. She stared at him, unable to hold back the tears. There was something in his words that gave her hope. Thanks, Tom. You have no idea how important this is to me. He nodded, leaning back in his chair. Don't thank me, Mrs., he said with a slight smile. We have a long road ahead of us. His smile was faint but sincere. Anna felt that he was ready to support her, even if it was difficult. She knew that they were only at the beginning of the journey, but at this moment, it was enough for her to feel heard. Tom couldn't sleep. The sound of the slow ticking of the clock on the bedside table irritated him like never before. He was lying on his back, staring at the ceiling, while Anna was curled up sleeping next to him, or pretended to be asleep. Her breathing seemed too regular, too controlled. The silence between them became almost palpable, like a barrier they had built themselves and which now seemed insurmountable. Her words echoed in Tom's head. I want to feel alive. I need this, Tom. He closed his eyes, but it didn't help. Instead of darkness, he saw her face, her eyes full of contradictions. She didn't ask to leave. I didn't ask for a divorce. But her request is to be free? What did that even mean? Tom got up, trying not to make any noise, and left the bedroom. In the kitchen, he poured himself a glass of water and sat down at the table, staring into the darkness outside the window. There were questions in his head that he couldn't find answers to. Anna had been his wife for almost 10 years. They went through a lot together, having children, changing jobs, moving. But how come she feels unhappy now? Where did he make a mistake? The sound of footsteps interrupted his thoughts. He turned around and saw Anna in the doorway. She stood with her arms wrapped around herself, as if trying to protect herself from the cold, or perhaps from his gaze. Are you awake? Her voice was low, almost apologetic. I can't, Tom admitted. She came closer, but did not sit down next to him. Her gaze swept over the table, over his hands, but did not meet his eyes. I didn't mean to hurt you, Tom. I just wanted to be honest. Honesty is good, he said slowly, feeling his voice tremble treacherously. But I do not know how to deal with what you said. Anna lowered her head. Her shoulders slumped slightly. It doesn't mean that I don't love you. Simply, I feel like I've lost myself. He chuckled, but there was no joy in the sound. You say you've lost yourself, but I feel like I'm losing you. She looked up sharply, and pain flashed in her eyes. I don't want you to think that. Tom, you're important to me. Very important. But I can't pretend that everything is perfect anymore. He ran a hand over his face, trying to calm the growing irritation. Good. Then tell me what you want. Honestly, no subterfuge. Anna froze, as if considering his words. Her voice was quiet but firm when she finally answered. I want freedom. I want to understand who I am besides my wife and mother. I want to know what my life is. It's not over yet. Tom fell silent. The words he wanted to say stuck in his throat. He got up, pushing back his chair, and went to the window. A deep breath did not help to calm the wave of emotions. Do you want freedom? Good. His voice was calm, almost icy. But how do you imagine it? Do you want to date others? You want to leave me and the children for the sake of something that you can't even explain yourself? Anna took a step toward him, her voice harsh. I don't want to leave you. I don't want to leave the children. But I want to feel like I'm still worth something. That I could be alive. He turned to her, peering into her face. Have you thought about how it will affect us? For children? What will I tell them if they ask why their mom wants freedom? Her lips were trembling, but she didn't look away. I don't want them to know anything. I'm not going to destroy the family. It's simple. It's temporary. Temporarily? Tom shook his head. Are you asking me to let you go and then come back as if nothing had happened? Do you understand how that sounds? Anna covered her face with her hands, her shoulders shaking with suppressed sobs. The sight shattered his resolve. He came closer, placing his hand gently on her shoulder. Anna, he began, trying to keep his voice soft. I do not know how to handle this, but I know one thing. I love you. And if that's what you need to understand yourself, then, okay, I agree. She looked up at him, her eyes full of tears and surprise. Are you serious? Yes, he nodded, although every word was difficult for him. I'll let you go, but with only one condition. You'll be back. To me. To the children. We will not destroy our family, Anna. We will not let this happen. She hugged him, hiding her face on his chest. Thanks, Tom. You have no idea how important this is to me. He didn't answer, just stroked her back, trying not to let his emotions get the better of him. It was not a decision, but a compromise that could either save their family or destroy completely. But at that moment, he wanted to believe that everything would be fine. Anna was sitting by the mirror, slowly running a lipstick brush over her lips. There was a strange mixture of confidence and anxiety in her gaze. The last few weeks have become something of an experiment for her. She has allowed herself to do something that she has not done for years. She left the house alone, went to bars, drank cocktails, danced to loud music. And this brought her some kind of acute sense of freedom. But the same feeling began to weigh on her. Every night she returned home late, sometimes drunk, sometimes she did not return at all, deciding to stay with her friend, who was happy to support her new life. Tom didn't ask any questions, but his gaze grew heavier. He no longer tried to talk to her about what was going on, and this silence cut Anna harder than any words. She felt their bond melting away before her eyes, but she couldn't bring herself to stop. She liked everything. One evening, Anna entered the apartment with difficulty, leaning on the door jamb. Her shoes, which she was holding in her hands, clattered loudly on the floor. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. Tom was sitting in the living room, waiting for her. Where have you been? His voice was calm, but that made it even more frightening. Anna tried to make a joke by throwing off her coat. Are you waiting for me like a strict father? Anna. Tom got up and came closer. I'm serious. Where have you been? She avoided his gaze, but he didn't back down. In the bar. With Rebecca, if you're so interested. Until 3 in the morning, he narrowed his eyes. This is not the first time this has happened. Anna grinned, throwing her purse on the sofa. You said yourself that I could be free, so I used this freedom. Tom ran a hand over his face, holding back his anger. Anna, this is not freedom. This is something else similar to obsession. You're not who you used to be anymore. She looked at him, meeting his gaze for the first time. Maybe that's what I need? To become different. These words hung in the air, and then Tom shook his head, turned around, and went upstairs. The next day, Anna woke up later than usual. My head was buzzing, and my memories of the night were vague. When she went into the kitchen, the children had already left for school, and Tom was silently drinking coffee, sitting at the table. "Good morning," she tried to smile, but he didn't even look at her. "Lindsay called," he said in a flat voice. "She said she saw you at the bar yesterday." "One." Anna froze, feeling the blood rush to her face. "So what?" Tom looked at her with undisguised disappointment. "What, Anna? She was there with friends. You didn't even notice her because you were drunk and too busy." "Tom, that's enough," she cut him off. But he didn't stop. "No, I can't keep quiet anymore. You want freedom, that's good. But was that the point? Drinking until you pass out and coming home in the middle of the night so the kids can see it?" Anna wanted to say something, but couldn't. His words were like a blow. Condemnation began to grow from all sides. Her neighbor in the stairwell, with whom they used to exchange recipes, now looked at her with undisguised disapproval. Her colleagues whispered behind her back when she appeared in the office with red eyes and a heavy gaze. But the real blow was the way the children reacted to it. One evening, her eldest son, Alex, came up to her after school. His voice was quiet, but serious beyond his age. "You don't take me to practice anymore." "Why?" Anna froze, feeling a lump in her throat. "I have a lot to do, honey, but I promise, soon everything will be back to normal." "Really?" He looked at her with disbelief. "Because Dad says you're busy. My own business, which is more important than me and Sethra." These words, spoken by a child, made her realize how far she had come. Alex turned away and walked away, leaving her in silence. Later that evening, Anna went into the bedroom where Tom was getting ready for bed. She stood in the doorway, not daring to speak. "What do you want, Anna?" "What is it?" he asked, not looking at her. "Tom, I think I need to change something." Her voice was trembling. He looked at her with cold determination. "But first you have to understand that you have already almost destroyed." Anna turned away, unable to find the words. She knew that his words were true, but she made an unexpected decision because she wasn't ready to stop yet. Anna sat in silence on the edge of the bed in a small, featureless hotel room. The only window looked out onto a busy street, but the noise of the city, which had seemed alive and attractive to her before, was now annoying. The room smelled of cheap air freshener, and the bed beneath it creaked with every movement. It was a place where she had escaped to feel free, but now it seemed like a cage. She slowly turned her gaze to the phone in her hands. There were several missed calls from Tom and one photo on the screen, which she opened and looked at for the 10th time. It showed the children, Alex and Lily, sitting in the kitchen with painted smiles that she knew were meant for her. The photo was clearly taken by Tom to show her that life goes on without her. Anna ran her finger across the screen, feeling a lump of guilt rise inside her. "What am I doing?" she thought. Tears stung her eyes, but she didn't let them fall. Instead, she took a deep breath and stood up. She had to make a decision. The drive home was strangely quiet. She turned off the radio, trying to concentrate on what she would say when she saw Tom. How many days has she been away from home? 4? 5? Her trips to bars and night walks became such a chore that she lost track of time. But now it all seemed empty and meaningless to her. Her car stopped at the house, and Anna just sat at the wheel for a while, watching the window into the living room where the light was on. She saw Tom's shadow flickering through the curtains and felt fear freeze in her chest. She had been gone so long that he might have decided that she would not come back. She got out of the car and walked slowly up the steps. The key trembled in her hand as she inserted it into the lock. When the door opened, the familiar smell of home-cooked dinner hit my nose. Tom was standing by the kitchen with his back to her. His shoulders were tense, and he was holding a mug of coffee in his hand. Anna took a step forward. "Tom." He froze. He turned slowly, and their eyes met. There was no anger in his eyes, but she didn't see any warmth either. Only fatigue. "You're back," he said, and there was a soft, heavy exhalation in his voice. She nodded, feeling the lump in her throat getting bigger. Yes. Tom put the mug down on the table and crossed his arms over his chest. Why? This question hit her deeper than she expected. She expected screams, accusations, but not this. Because I was wrong, she replied, trying to speak clearly. Because I want to fix everything. Tom stared at her for a long time, his face unreadable. Then he turned around and walked into the living room, gesturing for her to follow him. They sat down opposite each other like two strangers. Do you realize what you've done? What is it? He asked, finally breaking the silence. Anna nodded. Yes, I destroyed our family. I lost myself, but I want to take it all back. Tom grinned, but there was no joy in his grin. It's not that simple, Anna. You're gone. You left us. Me. Children. Do you know how Alex looked at me every morning, asking when Mom would be back? Do you know how Lily asked what she did wrong? Those words hit her like lightning. She covered her face with her hands, feeling tears gushing from her eyes. I know. No, Anna, you don't know. Tom raised his voice, but quickly pulled himself together. You don't know because you weren't there. But I was. Every day. And now you're coming back thinking an apology will be enough? Anna raised her head, her face wet with tears. No, I don't think that's enough. But I'm willing to do anything to prove that I want to come back. Why now? What is it? He asked, looking straight into her eyes. She paused, choosing her words. Because I realized that's all I was looking for. I've already had it. You, Alex, Lily. I was looking for myself where I wasn't. Tom sat in silence. Then he got up, went to the window, and looked out. His back seemed so wide, but at the same time so tired. It's not going to be easy, he said without turning around. Do you know that? Anna came closer, stopping behind him. I know, but I'm ready. He turned around, and his gaze was serious. Good. Then let's start small. Talk to the kids first. They deserve an explanation. And don't think that you can just win back their trust. You'll have to earn it. Anna nodded, feeling both relieved and afraid. She knew that her journey was just beginning. When the children returned home, Anna met them at the door. Alex looked at her in surprise, and Lily ran to her, hugging her waist. Mommy, you're back, she said happily. Alex stood to the side, his gaze wary. Will you leave again? Anna knelt down in front of him, trying to look into his eyes. No, Alex, I'm not leaving anymore. He didn't say anything, just nodded, but there was a flicker of doubt in his eyes. Anna understood that it would take time to restore their trust. But now she was ready to fight for her family. Anna was sitting at the kitchen table and looking at Tom intently. There was a cup of already cold tea between them, which she had not touched. The morning light softly penetrated through the window, flooding the room with golden light. But the atmosphere was far from warm. It was their first honest conversation since her return. So, Tom began, crossing his arms over his chest. You said you were ready to fix everything. But how? His voice sounded calm, but there was wariness in his eyes. Anna understood that these words were not easy for him. He had given her a chance, but now he wanted to see specifics, not empty promises. I'll start with the kids, she replied, trying to keep her voice firm. To show them that I'm here again, that I'm their mom, who's ready to be around. Tom chuckled, shaking his head. This is a good start. But do you realize that words alone won't be enough? The kids have already seen you leave. They've heard your promises. Alex, he still doesn't believe you. Anna drooped. His words were very sharp. I know, and I'm ready for it to take time. But I want to try. Please, Tom, give me a chance. He sighed, got up from the table, and started pouring himself coffee. Good. Let's start small. You're taking Alex to baseball practice after school today. He always asked why I was doing it and not you. Anna nodded. Of course. The day passed in a blur. Anna tried to find the right words to talk to her son, but when they got into the car after school, the silence between them seemed almost tangible. How was your day? She began cautiously. Alex shrugged, staring out the window. It's fine. She gripped the steering wheel, trying to keep the conversation going. Are you happy with the training? He answered shortly, without even turning his head. Anna felt her heart constrict. She knew it wasn't anger, but cold disbelief. Alex had drifted away, and her task was to find a way back. When they arrived at the field, Anna decided to stay, watching the training from the stands. She sat with her hands clasped and watched her son practice his throws. Sometimes their eyes would meet, but Alex would immediately turn away. After training, he approached her, clutching a glove in his hands. "You didn't have to stay," he said, trying to sound indifferent. "I wanted to," she replied. "I like watching you play. You're doing great." Alex softened for a moment, but quickly hid behind a mask of indifference again. "Thanks." Meanwhile, Anna and Tom's relationship remained strained. In the evening, when the children were already asleep, they were sitting on the couch in the living room. It was their first opportunity to talk in private. "Have you noticed that Alex is starting to soften up a little?" Tom asked, sipping his coffee. Anna nodded, hugging her knees with her hands. "Yes, but it seems to me that it will last for a long time." "Of course," Tom replied. "What are you going to do with Lily? She is small, but she also feels that something is wrong." Anna sighed heavily. "I'll try to spend more time with her. We can do crafts or read books together. She loves it." Tom looked at her with a slight smile. "It's a good plan, but remember that she, like Alex, will notice any falsehood you have." Anna did not answer, realizing that his words were true. The next day, Anna decided to cook dinner for the whole family. She took an old cookbook out of the closet and chose a recipe she hadn't cooked in a long time. Her goal was simple: to bring at least a small amount of comfort back to the house she had left. Tom returned from work later than usual, but when he entered the house, he was greeted by the smell of fried chicken and fresh bread. Lily was already sitting at the table, trying to reach for a piece, but Alex stood to the side with his arms crossed. "Did you really cook all this yourself?" "What is it?" he asked doubtfully. Anna smiled as she took off her apron. "Yes, and you can help me put everything on the plates if you want." Alex hesitated for a moment but then nodded. It was a small but important movement. During dinner, the atmosphere was almost normal. Lily laughed at Tom's jokes, Alex talked about baseball, and Anna watched her family, feeling that she was taking the first step towards their recovery. The path to reconciliation was a long one. Anna and Tom began to communicate more, trying to solve the accumulated problems. They signed up for family counseling, where they had to learn how to talk to each other openly, without accusations and resentments. Anna continued to work on relationships with children, finding her own approaches for each of them. Alex was still being careful, but at least he was talking to her now. Lily gradually regained the affection that had been between them before. Every day was a small step, but Anna felt that she was doing everything possible to regain the trust of her family. The difficulties remained, but now she was ready to overcome them. Along with Tom, together with the children. The warm morning sun penetrated through the light curtains, flooding the kitchen with soft light. Anna was standing at the stove, stirring scrambled eggs. Toast, jam, and a bowl of fresh fruit were already on the table. Lily was enthusiastically drawing on a napkin, periodically casting funny glances at her mother. "Mommy, can you make pancakes tomorrow?" the girl asked, propping her cheek with her hand. Anna smiled and nodded. "Of course, honey. Only if you help me. I'm going to break the eggs first," Lily shouted, raising her hand as if in class. At that moment, Alex came into the kitchen. He yawned, rubbing his eyes, and sat down at the table, silently reaching for the toast. Anna turned to him. "Good morning, Alex. How did you sleep?" He shrugged, but didn't push away her attempt at conversation. "It's fine." Anna put a plate of fried eggs in front of him. "Do you have a workout today?" "Yes, at 5. Dad said he'd drive me in time," he replied, glancing at her for a second, and then looked back at his plate. Anna felt a slight tension. Despite her best efforts, Alex still kept his distance. But he wasn't as withdrawn as he used to be, and that already meant a lot to her. At this time, Tom was finishing getting ready for work. He entered the kitchen, buttoning the cuffs of his shirt, and froze, looking at the scene in front of him. Lily was talking animatedly, waving her arms. Anna was leaning towards her drawing, and Alex, although silently, still remained part of the overall picture. "Does the morning start with lively discussions?" he joked, coming up to the table. Lily immediately ran to him, hugging his legs. "Daddy, do you know that I'm going to help my mom make pancakes tomorrow?" "I know, But don't break all the eggs, okay? Tom picked her up in his arms, and she laughed out loud. Anna looked at him, and their gazes crossed. There were no words in that moment, but they both knew they were moving in the right direction. The day went on as usual. After school, Anna and Lily went to the grocery store. The girl held her mother's hand, from time to time, pointing to the display cases with sweets or toys. Anna couldn't help but smile. She hadn't been able to spend time with children so easily and freely for a long time. "Mommy, can we buy this?" Lily pointed to a large painting kit. Anna looked at the price and hesitated a little, but then took the box from the shelf. "Of course! You're an artist here. Hooray!" Lily shouted, jumping for joy. At that moment, a neighbor, Mrs. Reynolds, came up to them. The woman was known for her curiosity and sharp tongue. "Oh, Anna!" she exclaimed, as if she had seen an old friend. "I haven't seen you for a long time. You seem to have completely disappeared." Anna felt her shoulders tighten, but quickly pulled herself together. "Yes, a lot to do," she replied with a slight smile. Mrs. Reynolds looked at Lily and then back at Anna. "I hope you're doing well. Children are the most important thing." "Yes, everything is fine," Anna said firmly, putting her arm around Lily's shoulders. The neighbor stood for a while longer, but realizing that she would not achieve more, she nodded and left. Anna exhaled and turned back to her daughter. Lily nodded, not even noticing the tension in the conversation. In the evening, after dinner, the family gathered in the living room. Tom was laying out a board game on the table, and the children were animatedly discussing who would go first. "I'm definitely going to win," Alex said, looking at his sister with a grin. "Nothing like that," Lily retorted, slamming her palms on the table. Anna was watching them from the couch. These moments, which she had previously taken for granted, now seemed almost magical to her. Tom looked up and noticed her thoughtfulness. "Are you with us?" "What is it?" he asked, picking up one of the figures. She nodded, moved to the table, and picked up her chip. "Of course." The game lasted almost an hour. Laughter, teasing, the joy of victories, and the disappointment of defeats. All this filled the house with sounds that had been missing for so long. When the children went to bed, Anna and Tom were left alone in the living room. Tom poured 2 glasses of wine and sat down next to her. "You're doing fine," he said, handing her a glass. Anna raised her eyebrows in surprise. "Really?" He nodded. "Yes. It wasn't easy, but I can see how hard you're trying. And the children see it." Anna took a sip, feeling the warmth of his words. "Thanks, but I know there's still a long way to go." "Yes," Tom agreed, "but we're walking it together." She looked at him, and a smile appeared on her face. She wanted to believe that this was just the beginning of their new life. And that's where today's story ends. Thank you for watching to the end. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and comment. We'd love to discuss this story with you. See you in the next video.